So I took a little break. In the meantime, I did a couple of those areas on the arm right here. And you notice that I just kind of did just right up on this part of the arm, just kind of hitting it right here with the highlights as it went up. So at this point I'm just hitting, like before, like on this part of the body, I'm just hitting the tops of the folds. What I can do is after I spread out some of the paint, then I can go back and just hit it a little bit inside the higher value. Just going to touch it a little bit right in here. They'll just give just a little extra highlight right on top there. And again, like I don't want to overdo it, because really subtlety is the key here. I mean, if you force something and you overdo something, then it doesn't work out how you want it to, and it looks very generic and stylized. If you want to make something look real and more organic, then you really need to keep it on the subtle end. You don't want to force values that aren't there. It's really, I always say it all the time, but it's just paint what you see. Don't try to make up things that aren't there. I'm pretty happy with that. I'm going to go back into this area too. Just going to hit a couple spots. You can see when I hold my brush, I really like to hold it towards the end of the brush, because you have so much more control when you're moving the brush around. So if I'm going like this, I'd see how much area I can cover with very small movements. But if I'm up here, I can really just hit a couple of spots like that, right? I don't have this long movement, I have to move my wrist more. So I like holding back. It just takes practice and time and just experience to do it, but I like holding back like this. That way you can hit a whole bunch of areas. Look at how much, I hardly have to move going like this, right? So I'd hit some of these back here just a little bit more. So much of painting is just about building. It's pushing back, pulling forward, pushing back, pulling forward. It's like a tug of war between lights and darks. And I can even take my dry brush when it gets kind of loaded up with paint like this. You can use it to put some value down as well. Because I want to put a little value down here, but I don't want it to be too strong. So I'm just going to tuck that into here. So all the paint on here is just the paint that I sort of wiped off already. Pull out these values a little bit, these folds. So I'm pretty happy with that. Now you really want to take it slow and you don't want to overdo it. So I mean, part of it is knowing when to stop. Pretty happy about that now. I'm going to come in later on and maybe hit some of the darks. Now I'm going to move over to the other figure. Now one of the things I like about the other figure is compared to this guy you can see has more of like a softer fabric, you know, like a softer suit fabric, where you can tell this is more like chunky, like this is more of a sweater type of thing. I really kind of like, you know, when I was building this up, I just kind of really wanted to keep some of these brush strokes in here, just to kind of show some of the different kind of fabric there. It's more of like a wool material, whereas this is more of like a silk. So now I'm going to move to the other figure. Now what I'm going to do is, I don't want to use the same tools I was using for the other guy, because it has different color in it. So I'm going to put these away and get a new brush. One of the benefits of having many of the same kind of brushes is that you can just, you don't have to sit and wait for, you know, when you clean a brush, you don't want the solvent to still be gathered on the brush. So That's why I always like to have many of one. So I have two of these right here. This is a round, and this is a really old, bright. Again, these are all red sable brushes. So you can see when you touch it, you kind of, has a little bit of action on it, like that. It's not too stiff, but. And these brushes, you know, this brush right here is probably a year or two old, maybe a year and a half old. And they do get pretty beaten up over time. So now I'm just going to go around and do the same thing. I'm going to hit some of the highlights in here. I just want to bring up some of the lights on his back there. One of the things is, I mean, if you look at, I have a close-in shot here of the painting, but if you really look at the painting, I want to bring more of the lights to this side, because this side's getting a little heavy with lights, so I want to wrap it around and bring more lights to here. And you can see I'm going to use the texture I've already created. And again, like above, I don't want to overdo it, I just want to hit it just a couple areas. And that's kind of where the control comes in, is you really don't want to overdo things. You know, basically when you exaggerate something too much, you create like a stylized version of what it really is. And there's nothing wrong with, I mean, if you do a lot of stylized stuff, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you want to do more of a realistic approach, then you really have to maintain a lot of control.